Hello everybody! So today we're going to be reading the Xeno-Hero Bnha x xenomorph male listener up in here. We are currently on chapter 14, but we're going to go back a chapter for the purpose of the recap. So, long story short, we begin a fight with the Nomu, eventually stopping in between and making sure that Izuku, Aizawa, and the rest of them, what's her name? Frog Hero, I'm gonna call her Frog Hero, and basically making sure all of them are okay. Izuku asked if we're okay, but we're like, yeah, we're having so much fun, friends with our siblings, blah 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 blah, right? Kind of concerning in the end, but eventually you went back to the fight, and as you fought Numu, there was a certain villain who shot at your chitin, if I said it correctly, and basically blew it off, but it kept regrowing. It's gonna regrow stronger and stronger. You didn't give up, and they basically told you to your face that they're planning on using you for experimentation and to put you under their control, which you're like, oh hell no, that's not gonna fly, and you stand back up and fight. Period. With a little bit of funniness in between the story, I ain't gonna lie. And then eventually we ended up killing the Numu, and then right after, as soon as we killed the Numu, we got shot. And we looked like we died, but and Zuko was panicking, crying, everything of the works. But in reality, we were just overwhelmed by the Nomu's memories that we passed out. That's the only reason why. Luckily, we awoke him back up before Shigaraki could hurt Izuku. And then, we stopped him. We had to cut off our arm because Shigaraki touched us with his quirk. And, it would have made us worse. And it was an indescribable, humongous amount of pain. And then, as soon as, Shigaraki went back to attack, another gunshot went off, and then reinforcements finally came to the rescue. So yeah, I personally think, we were such bad bitches, honest. But anyways, before we get started, let's get a hear of them warnings. For these warnings, there will be mentions of threats, deaths, killing, decapitated head, fighting, sound effects of guns and other loud noises. And just remember, guys, this is involving a xenomorph. There's going to be all sorts of gory stuff and all that, etc., etc. So please be prepared for that. It will not be free, trust me. It's about to get real messed up in here. So y'all have been warned. Chapter 14, Aftermath. YN POV. Finally, reinforcements are here. The battle is won. Although the majority of the enemies are already slaughtered by my hands, but this will secure their defeat. Izuku was holding onto my back tightly, still shaken up by seeing me shot in the head not too long ago. I gently wrapped my tail around him to provide some comfort as I continued to stare down the two remaining villains in front of us. Shigaraki, oh man, they're here? It's game over now. Shall we go home and try again, Kyrig? Why do I always say this man's name wrong? Ugh. Kurogiri. Before he could finish speaking, at least 3 more bullets pierced his body in various locations as more bullets soon followed. However, the rest of them were blocked by the mist man, shielding his injured comrade with his body. I could see his mist moving to Nomo's lifeless body, so I quickly ran forward and grabbed the body before moving back. I could tell he was glaring at me as his yellow eyes narrowed when they met mine. I just chuckled, holding up the body of my fallen foe while grinning at them. YN, my trophy. 13 then used her quirk, pulling them towards the rest of the heroes while the mist man attempted to resist. Shigaraki, I may have failed this time, but we'll be back for you, YN. You'll make a perfect replacement for Nomu. I guess we just have to beat you into submission first. I already have a great king, and I'd rather die than be forced to serve you. I glared at him before spitting a large amount of acid at them, but before it could reach them, they disappeared. 13 stopped her quirk as I stared at my acid melting the spot they were once on. The enemy wants me? This isn't good. That means they'll have their eyes on Azuku as well. But with Nomu's memories, I might be able to find their base and launch an attack before they can. Izuku, YN? My king's voice pulled me from my thoughts, and that made me concerned about him, with how his voice sounded broken. I turned around to face him, which allowed me to clearly see the sadness and fear in his eyes. I unwrapped my tail from around him before dropping Nomu's body and bringing Izuku into a comforting hug. He quickly responded by wrapping his arms around my neck and crying into my shoulder. Izuku, I thought you died. I moved one of my hands to rub the back of his head as I mentally spoke to him. YN, I only stopped moving because of the numerous memories I took in all at once. After the first 2 bullets, my skin became resistant to it. So the bullet to my head merely broke on contact with me. See? I gestured to the bullet that hit my head, which was on the ground, shattered in many tiny pieces. This seemed to not only slightly calm him down, as he continued to hold on to me tightly. With nothing else to do, I just lied down on the ground while still holding on to Izuku, as I gently rocked us, using my tail while rubbing his head. The rocking and head pats seemed to have put him to sleep as his body went limp and his breathing became even. How to comfort a human from such a near-death experience? Maybe some delicious snacks and a nice warm bed will help him. So let's head home. With the new objective of making Izuku emotionally better, I used my tail to push myself back onto my feet. I held Izuku securely in one arm while picking up the Nomu's body with the other. Hey, you! Drop that immediately! While I was busy thinking of a plan to make Izuku feel better, I didn't notice a few humans approaching us. The 3 humans were wearing blue clothes with a black vest, and their yelling made me consider them possible threats to us. With Izuku asleep, he was vulnerable to attacks, so they were getting way too close for comfort. Didn't you hear me? I said drop the body! The human placed his hand on my arm that was holding Nomu, and that's what finally made me retaliate. I wrapped my tail around Nomu before using my now free hand to shove the human away. But what I didn't expect was for him to be launched a few feet back. It didn't use that much strength. Are these humans just that weak? Unless the Nomu strength added to my own, along with another one of his quirks. Yeah, that's probably what happened. The 2 remaining humans looked shocked before getting into combat positions. Put your hands. Before I could slaughter the 2 humans, All Might quickly approached and placed his hand on the human's shoulder, interrupting him. All Might, hey, there's no need for violence anymore. They both stopped and turned to face the symbol of peace who had a smile on his face. All Might? All Might, thank you for coming to the scene so quickly, officers. But what seems to be the problem here? This thing refused to drop the body when ordered to and just assaulted another officer. When the human finished speaking, All Might turned to me with a small amount of disappointment in his eyes. All Might, YN, there is no excuse for you to lash out at someone without reason, especially an officer. YN, but I did have a reason. That human first attempted to give me an order right before placing his hand on my arm. And since Izuku is asleep, he is more susceptible to attacks. So I'm on full alert until he awakens once more. Besides, I didn't know him, and Izuku always tells me stranger danger. So I reacted to protect Izuku and myself from the danger of a stranger. He just sighed before leaning forward and whispering in my ear. All Might, we'll talk about this later, but for now, I'll distract the officers while you escape. Also, leave the body here. We don't need anyone reporting you for suspicious activity. I just gave him a confused look while I tilted my head. These seemed to amuse him as he patted my head before reaching into his pockets and taking out a treat. I gladly accepted the snack, but I was still confused on what he meant. What's so suspicious about a body that isn't even human? Once I finished the snack, he turned around to the 2 humans and began to walk away while holding onto their shoulders. All Might, hey, could you 2 follow and assist me in securing the area? But, All Might, please, we must ensure the villains are gone and the students are uninjured and safe. They both soon stopped protesting and followed All Might to search for any villains or injured students. Well, time to go home and make Izuku feel better. I dropped Nomu's body, but I wasn't going to leave without a trophy to show my victory. So, I used my sharp claws to slice his head off, making some blood pour out of the neck and pool around the body. I grabbed the severed head before running towards the exit, making sure I held onto Izuku tightly. Even with my quick movement, he remained sleeping peacefully in my arms. What food will be good and worthy consumption by my king? Maybe Inko can help me on this task once we return home. In a few seconds, we went through the exit and were now outside with the rest of the class. I skidded to a halt, breaking the concrete beneath my feet. The noise got the attention of Ashido, Tsuyu, and Uraka, who ran and tackled me in a group hug when they saw us. But thanks to my strength, I was able to remain standing as I wrapped my tail around them, securing the embrace. Ochako, Wayne, are you alright? We saw you fight all those villains and that giant creature. Tsuyu, are you injured at all? I tried to reassure them that I was fine by giving them a smile while nodding my head, but this didn't seem to reassure them as they began to check my body for any wounds. When they touched my sides, it tickled, causing me to slightly chuckle. They stopped and stared at me wide-eyed, never hearing me make a sound other than growls and hisses. From the corner of my eye, I saw Mina smirk as she began to tickle my sides. It took a lot for me not to drop Izuku due to the laughter, but I managed to hold them in. Tsuyu and Araka both watched intrigued to see if Mina could make me laugh. What's the matter, YN? Are you ticklish? She continued to tickle my sides as I gave her a defiant look while I held on in my laughter from escaping. I used my tail to wrap around her left hand and lift her away from me, finally ending her onslaught of tickling. I looked down at Izuku right as he opened his eyes and looked into mine. Izuku, YN? He raised his head up and looked around, confused, not knowing where he was, until he finally remembered what happened. What, Izuku, are you okay, YN? Do you have any injuries? He got out of my arms and began to pound my body for any injuries. Just like the other three did, I began to slightly chuckle when he touched my sides. Mina, Midoriya, where did you come from? He stopped expecting me and instead looked up at Mina, who was still hanging in the air by my tail. Izuku. YN was carrying me, but why are y'all hanging in the air by his tail? Mina, well, I was tickling his side trying to make him laugh, but he stopped before I could succeed. Izuku, YN, could you put her down, please? I complied and gently placed her back on her feet before sitting next to Izuku's feet. I then used my tail to wrap around and hide the Numa's head from their sight. Ochako, he's really obedient to you, huh? He gently rubbed my head as I leaned into his hand and purred. Izuku, I guess so. Are you three okay? Tsuyu, yes. YN fought the majority of the villains, so none came after us. He seemed really determined to win, especially against the thing that tried to attack you. My king then turned his head to me with a smile on his face and happiness in his eyes. Izuku, you did a great job, YN. I'm proud of you. Those words nearly made me cry as my eyes filled with tears, but I then refused to let them fall. Izuku saw the state I was in, causing him to giggle before opening his arms wide and inviting me into a hug. I quickly wrapped my arms around him and lifted him up, causing a laugh to escape from him. Everyone else watched in amusement as I slightly danced in place with Izuku in my arms and my tail wagging. My king is proud of me. I feel like I can die in peace now. But if I die, Izuku will be alone, so I'll die later. If only my family could see me now, stronger than before and caring for someone so kind. Before we could start our journey home, Izuku insisted we walk together instead of me getting us there almost instantly. So here, we were walking home side by side while Izuku holding my leash as I walked on all fours beside him. Izuku, sometimes you have to stop and smell the roses. There was a huge collection of flowers to our left, so I stopped walking and stared. Izuku came to a halt, as well confused as why I stopped. I went up to the flowers and buried my face in the collection of them. They were bright red and smelled of lemons. Izuku lightly tugged on my leash, making me move back to his side with 4 flowers stuck in my hair. He just giggled before taking the flowers out of my hair and carefully placing them back. Izuku, Not literally, YN. It means taking time to recognize the daily moments that bring us joy in life. Like right now, our walk back home brings me joy. What about you? YN. Every time I'm with you, it brings me great joy. Even laying by your feet as you do something brings me joy. I'm glad you found me all those years ago, Izuku. He seemed surprised by my answer, but soon a smile replaced that surprise as he crouched down and hugged me. Izuku, me too. He soon pulled away and we continued our peaceful walk back home with smiles on our faces. Joy, a word I'm not too familiar with, but I feel the time I spent with Izuku has given me a clear understanding of what this word means. Hopefully, he'll teach me more. We made it home not too long after as the sun was setting, making the area around us glow orange. Izuku opened the door and let go of my leash, allowing me to run inside and wait for him in the living room. He just smiled while closing the door and taking off his shoes. Izuku, we're home! Inko soon came out of the kitchen with a bowl that had my name on it, filled with perfectly cooked meat and rice. Inko, welcome home. Here you go, IN. She placed the bowl in front of me and I immediately began to devour the contents. Inko rubbed my head before walking back to get Izuku's food. My king went to his room to change as I finished cleaning my bowl of any food. I guess I should save the plan on cheering Izuku up for another time. He seemed to be doing all right, but I should keep an eye out for anything. I soon got up with my bowl and made my way to the kitchen to wash it. Izuku soon came out of his room and into the kitchen as I began to wash my bowl. Izuku was already halfway done with his food when Inko began to speak with him. Inko, so how was school today for the two of you? Izuku, it went great. Inko then began to stare at him intensely as he tried to stutter out a response. I was finished washing my bowl, so I decided to help Izuku explain the day to his mother. YN, don't worry, Izuku. I'll explain the day to your mother. He then began to desperately signal me no, but it was too late as I already unwrapped my tail from Nomu's head and showed it to the both of them. They both stopped and stared at the severed head unmoving. The silence went on for a few more seconds until its mouth fell open, making a tongue fall out. This made them lay their heads on the table, seemingly passed out. Oh, you two must be tired. Don't worry, I shall make sure you get to your beds and secure your food within the cold box. I placed the head on the floor before moving to the table and picking up Inko in my arms. I then made my way to her room, using my tail to open the door and pull the sheets back from her bed. I gently laid her on the bed before putting the covers on her. I nudged her head with mine, just like how my mother did when she put me and my siblings to sleep when we were chest bursters. Sweet dreams, mistress. I quietly left the room and closed the door before making my way to the kitchen for Izuku. He was still passed out, so I picked him up in my arms and made my way to his room. I used my tail once again to open the door and pull the covers off his bed, and before laying him on the bed. I covered him in the blankets once more before hugging him and rubbing my head with his. Sleep well, my king. I shall return soon. I exited the room, leaving the door slightly open since I will come back to guard him once I finish securing their food. I entered the kitchen to see Numa's head staring at me still on the floor. YN, you're still angry about me killing you? He didn't respond. YN, where were you made? His head fell to the side, still unresponsive. A few coughs escaping me since my throat still isn't used to speaking. Maybe more practice speaking could help. I grabbed both of their plates of food and opened the cold box's door with my tail, allowing me to place them inside. Once the food was safe inside, I closed the door and picked up Nomu's head before heading back to Izuku's room. You want to know something, Nomu? He didn't respond. Your brain tasted weird like a mixture of things. Your masters are now hunting me, my king, and now I have to find and kill them to keep Izuku safe. He didn't respond. I opened the door to Izuku's room and silently closed it behind me. He was still asleep, so I rolled the head under the bed before climbing into the bed with my king. He unconsciously turned and hugged my tail as I patted his head. I wonder what tomorrow will have in store for me and my king. Azuku told me we didn't have school for a while because of the attack, so we were in his room with me relaxing and him lifting a dumbbell. He was lifting it with one hand while the other was rubbing my head with the excuse me. He was lifting it with one hand while rubbing my head with the other, as I curled up on his bed. A knock on his door made him stop and made me lift my head to the door. Inko, Izuku, YN? Izuku, yes, YN? She opened the door, allowing us to see each other. Inko, the food's ready. Izuku, thanks, we'll be right there. A smile appeared on her face before she left. Izuku put down the dumbbell and got up, motioning for me to follow him. I got up and followed him out of the room, ready to eat Inko's delicious dinner. Inko, today we're having pork cutlet bowls. I began to eat my portion of the food, and it tasted heavenly. We were now in the homeroom, with me sitting by Izuku's feet as he rubbed my head. Toru, hey, did you watch the news last night? Mashiro, yes. Toru, did you see how everyone in class was on screen for a second? I didn't stand out at all. I slowly blocked out the conversation and focused on the nice feeling of Izuku's hand on my head. I almost went to sleep. I say almost because the small grape human screamed, preventing me from achieving my slumber. Minoru, stop that, Cito. I refused to get up because of him, so I slowly extended my tail out. Minoru, just thinking about it makes me... It's so nasty. Just thinking about it is making me wet myself. Slam. Slam that bitch. I smacked him with my tail, finally silencing the deafening sounds of his crying. Izuku removed his hand, which caused me to open my eyes to see what was wrong. Apparently, he was worried about the grape human as he looked at me with surprise and a stern expression. Izuku, YN, why did you do that? YN, reflex. I grabbed his hand and placed it on my head once more as I looked up at him with puppy eyes. His expression faltered as he continued to look into my eyes until he just sighed and continued to pat my head. While he did this, a small smile appeared on his face as he whispered to himself. Izuku, you always act cute when you want something. If I say this wrong, I'm so sorry. Rikido? Yeah, Rikido. But man, did you see Ryan fight all those villains? He took care of all those crazy strong villains by himself. While I appreciate the praise, excuse me. While I appreciate the praise, human, the majority of those villains were weak compared to me. The only strong ones were the Mistman, Nomu, and the human with hands. If I say this wrong, I'm sorry. Fumicage? Yeah, Fumicage. His strength seemed to be on par with the dark creature. Rikido. Midoriya? Izuku. Yes, Rikido. Could you tell me what species YN is? This seemed to get everyone's attention as they quieted down, waiting for my king's answer. Even Katsuki seemed interested. Rikido. In the observation room, All Might said he had gained a quirk, turning him human. So what was he before? Izuku, Before he could finish, Ida ran to the front of the class screaming, Tenya, everyone! Morning homeroom is about to start. Stop talking and take your seats. If I'm not mistaken, you're the only one speaking and not seated. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who thought that, as someone shouted that he is the only one speaking and not seated. Ida sat in his seat, slightly shaking as he clenched his fists. Tenya, shoot! Ochako, don't worry about it. Everyone went back to their own things as they seemed to have forgotten about the human's question. Izuku let out a sigh of relief as he continued to pet me as he took out a snack and fed me. Mina, Suyu, who's... She almost fell back, but Suyu caught her chair as she continued her question. I also smelled a familiar scent of cats and a hint of fruit come closer. Mina, gonna teach homeroom today. The scent was getting closer. Now I raised my head to the door. Suyu, well, Mr. Aizawa is supposed to be in the hospital recovering from his injuries. The door opened, directing everyone's attention there as I stretched my body. Aizawa, morning. Oh, Mr. Aizawa, you're back too soon. Denki, You're too much of a pro. Tenya, are you alright, Mr. Aizawa? Obviously not. He's still wrapped in bandages. Ochako, can you really call that alright? He made it to the front of the class before he began to speak once more. Aizawa, my well-being doesn't matter. More importantly, the fight is not over yet. I immediately stood up, prepared and ready for battle. Izuku grabbed my leash to make sure I didn't go on a rampage through the whole school searching for villains. Aizawa, the UA Sports Festival is drawing near. I lied back down, not caring, but everyone else seemed to care as they screamed. Oh, that's a super normal school event. Dinky, wait. If I say this wrong, I'm so sorry. Kyoka, is it okay to have a sports festival so soon after the villain snuck inside? If you show the enemy that their attack has broken your morale, then you appear weak to both future allies and enemies. This will lead to vulnerability to future attacks, but show that the attack has failed and has instead strengthened your resolve, then you shall appear strong. Aizawa, apparently, they think of it as UA showing that our crisis management skills is solid as a rock by holding the event. Security will also be strengthened to 5 times that of previous years. Above all, our sports festival is a huge chance. It's not an event to be cancelled because of a few villains. If you expect to be a pro, then the path to your future will open at this event. 1 chance a year, a total of 3 chances. No aspiring heroes can afford to miss this event. If you understand that, then don't slack off on your preparations. Oh, yes, sir. Aizawa, homeroom is dismissed. But I don't aspire to be a hero. The only reason I'm here is because Izuku wants to be a hero. If he chooses to be a villain instead, then I'll gladly follow him. All our classmates began to speak of how excited they are about this upcoming event. Now that I'm looking around, I noticed an interesting human. His head reminded me of a rock, and I don't think I heard him speak since the first day of school. Izuku, everyone's so into it. Tenya, you're not? We have enrolled here to become heroes, so of course we would get fired up. Tsuyu, Ida, you have a unique way of getting fired up. It's weird. I moved over to Tsuyu and Ashido, leaving Izuku to have a conversation with Ida. They both saw me approach, which put smiles on their faces as they both began to pet me. I leaned into their hands as I turned my eyes to the rock human. Mina, what is it, YN? They both turned to where I was looking, allowing them to see the rock human as well. Then he noticed us looking at him, which he quickly turned away, seemingly embarrassed. Tsuyu, are you interested in speaking with Koda? The human's name is Koda. He kind of reminds me of Izuku in a way, so he should like hugs too. I turned back to her and nodded. Tsuyu, well, he seems really shy, so you might not get too much of a conversation. I got up and hugged both of them, lifting them in the air. They returned the embrace, but I could see some red on their cheeks as we continued the embrace. Izuku, YN, we're gonna go to lunch. Now come on. I placed both humans down and patted their heads before following Izuku to the cafeteria. But before we left, I could see the red on their cheeks turn even brighter. As we were walking to the cafeteria, I was carrying Izuku on my back as he spoke to Araka and Ida. I didn't really pay too much attention, only learning that she's becoming a heroine to earn money to help her parents. It's a noble cause to want to care for your family. At least it's a better reason than mine because I'm only here for Izuku, so I have no intention or motivation to help people. Ida, clapping loudly while screaming, took me out of my thoughts. Tenya, bravo, Raka, bravo! Not knowing why he was clapping, I just clapped along, except mine were louder and faster, making the sound echo. Uraka thanked us for the claps just before All Might came running around the corner. All Might, young Midoriya, and YN are here. Izuku, All Might? What's the matter? All Might, lunch. He then held up a blue cloth covering a box with one hand and a small bag of treats with the other. All Might, want to eat together? How about it? Izuku, we'd love to. Let's go, YN. YN, actually, my king, I would like to go do something. I couldn't see his face since he was on my back, but I could feel his hold on me tighten for some reason. His voice even sounded a little different. Izuku, what are you gonna do? YN, inspect something that caught my attention earlier, if you don't mind my absence. He got off my back and stood in front of me, giving me a closed-eye smile as he answered. Izuku, sure, just be safe. He then quickly left with All Might as I watched, slightly confused by his changed behavior. Guess he can't wait to spend time with his role model? I know I'd like to spend time with someone I find interesting. Speaking of which, time to find that rock human. I began to walk the cafeteria, not noticing the human watching me from around the corner of the hallway. Would you like to remain human or revert back to your Ravager form? Human, Ravager. Chapter 15. The Sports Festival. Before we start, this is from the author. Hear ye, hear ye. The votes are in and counted. And I've got to say, I didn't expect this. In third place with 2 votes, the human. In second place with 26 votes, the Ravager. In an unpredicament contender, both has gained 32 votes, making YN being able to shift between the two forms. That's it. You could ignore me and go about your day. YN POV. We passed several students who, like last time, gave me strange looks when I walked past them. Ida was a little bit in front of me, talking with Iraka, who was holding my leash. While they were talking, I observed the humans for potential powers to relieve them of. But I remembered Izuku's orders on not killing anyone, and I wasn't about to disappoint him again. Regardless if he's here or not, I shouldn't disobey his orders after all. That would be treason. If I remember anything from my mother, is that insubordination cannot and will not be tolerated. I was so busy reminiscing that I didn't notice we were in the cafeteria until Uraka gently rubbed my head. Ochako, are you okay, YN? You seem pretty deep in thought. Her hand was soft and warm, which caused me to push my head into her palm and purr. She just giggled and began to rub my head and face with both hands. Ida went ahead of us, leaving us alone. While I was in bliss, a group of humans passed by us, and the yellow-haired human whispered to himself, "Weirdos." I managed to see his face before he turned his back to us. "I will remember your face in case I find you anywhere secluded and alone, human." He laughed before he continued to walk with his group, joining a couple of humans that were talking to each other. I didn't care one bit about this comment, since I was called that before. But the same couldn't be said of Araka, who stopped and looked down with embarrassment that clear on her face. Normally, I wouldn't care for a human's feelings except for Izuku's, but she's gained my favor from all the treats and head pats she's giving me. Time to initiate Operation Care and Scare. This plan is only for Izuku, but I guess I can make an exception this once. Step 1. Tend to the human's physical and her emotional pain. I stood to my full height and lifted her up into a comforting and gentle hug, which caused her to stiffen up before slowly relaxing into my embrace. She hugged me tightly and buried her face into my neck as I stroked her hair with my right hand. As we were hugging, another group of humans passed, but instead of rude comments, they awed. This seemed to snap her back to reality as she gently pushed herself off of my chest, causing me to move my arms to her waist instead. She had a bright blush on her face, but a huge smile as well. "Ochako, I'm alright now, thank you." I nuzzled her cheek with mine, which increased the intensity of her blush. Now that she's emotionally better, time to move on to the next and final plan. Step 2. Deal with the problems that cause the human's pain. I gently placed her back on the ground and then began to walk the direction the blonde went, which confused her. "Ochako, where are you going?" I stopped and turned to her, thinking of what to say. I can't tell her I'm going to kill that blonde human. She might tell Izuku. Well, I guess I need to wait to kill that human. Using my tail, I gestured to the line of humans and rubbed my stomach. She attempted to decipher my gestures and concluded that I was hungry. "Oh, you must be hungry. I don't know what Izuku feeds you, but I'm pretty sure Suyu still has some snacks. Come on, she's right over there with Ashido." She grabbed my leash before gesturing to a far table where Mina and Suyu were sitting at. They were speaking with each other and seemed very engrossed in their conversation. So we began to walk over to them. As we were walking, I noticed plates of food in front of the two, which reminded me that Araka didn't have lunch yet. I looked ahead to see a human with a plate that had an uneaten burger on it. Perfect. It's untouched and should be easy to acquire. The human was currently trying to open a bag. Keyword, trying. Since he seemed to be struggling with it, he felt as he fell under the table, trying to pry it open. I took this chance to stealthily take the plate as we walked by. Meat is a great source of food for any growing human, and it's technically not stealing since I wasn't caught. What other items should I relieve these humans of? A human passing by us, and she had a delicious yellow triangle. I used my tail to lightly tap her right shoulder, making her turn away from us. This allowed me to grab the triangle and place it on my plate as she looked around confused. A delicious triangle. The meal is almost complete. I just need to do something for her to drink. We were almost at Suyu's and Mina's table, and a human sitting near them stood up and spoke to another human who was looking at a book. I also noticed several bottles of empty water near his plate, with only one still full and unopened. Hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom. Be back in a bit. Yeah. The human left, leaving his beverage unguarded since the other human was busy reading something. As we passed, I swiftly grabbed it with my tail before moving it to my left hand while holding the plate with my right. Well done, YN. Not only did you complete the meal, but you also weren't detected while doing so. Ochako. Hey guys. Her voice got their attention, ending their conversation in favor of greeting us with warm smiles. Mina, hey Uraka. She then turned to me and her smile got slightly larger as her eyes seemed to sparkle with excitement. I still need to investigate her strange scent of acid. Maybe I'll find an answer during this time. Mina, hi YN. I let out a hiss before giving her a small smile. We sat down with them in different spots. Uraka was sitting in a chair while I preferred to sit on the floor next to Suyu, still holding the tray. Suyu, hello Uraka. Hello YN. Suyu rubbed my head as I slightly purred, leaning into her hand with my eyes closed. Mina, hey Uraka, where's your lunch? Ochako, oh, I forgot to get it. I'll be back in a few seconds. I opened my eyes and placed a plate of acquired food on the table in front of her, along with the unopened water bottle. They looked at the items before turning to me, only to see me looking up at them with puppy eyes, waiting for their response as my tail slightly wagged in anticipation. No one said anything, so I thought they must have not liked it. Well, at least you tried. That's what Izuku says too. My thoughts were cut off by all three of them tackling me into a group hug and yelling, Ochako, Mina, Suyu, so cute! The hug took me by surprise, but I quickly wrapped my tail and arms around all three of them. The hug didn't last long as Uraka's stomach growled, making her pull away from the hug with a blush clear on her face. Ochako, sorry, I'm still a little hungry. Both Mina and Suyu giggled as I unwrapped my arms from the embrace and picked Uraka up with my tail. She slightly panicked as she was lifted off of her feet, but soon relaxed as I set her down on her chair and before moving the plate of food closer to her. Mina and Ashido sat back down in their chairs as well, while I sat next to Suyu once again with my head in her lap. Ochako, thanks, YN. How did you get the food? We didn't go anywhere near the lunch line. I liberated it from various humans who were careless. I just shrugged as Suyu got out one of her homemade snacks and fed them to me, while Ashido ran her fingers through my hair. I then remembered I need to investigate Ashido's strange scent of acid. YN, Ashido. My voice made her jump as she looked around before her eyes landed on me. Mina? What is it, YN? That made Suyu and Raka stop their conversation and look between the both of us confused, but I ignored them in favor of continuing to speak with Ashido. YN, your scent is very pleasing, but it has a hint of acidity to it, which confuses me. A light blush was on her cheeks before she asked the question. Mina, why does it confuse you? YN, well, in my experience, human can't come into contact with acid without melting, so how come your scent gives it off? Mina, oh, it's just my quirk, but the more I use it, the less resistance I have to it. Why does it make me smell bad? YN, no, it smells good to me. It reminds me of home, which is relaxing, and besides, no other creature has a great sense of smell like me. Suyu, Ashido, who are you talking to? This stopped our conversation as we both turned to Suyu. Mina, oh, you guys didn't know? Ochako, no what? Mina. Wine can speak telepathically. It's a weird feeling at first, but you'll eventually get used to it. Uraka turned to me with pure wonder in her eyes. You can speak telepathically? YN, yes. She reeled back and held her head as she looked at Ashido. Ochako. Yeah, that is a weird feeling. Tsuyu, what is? Wyan, me speaking to you in your mind. She stopped feeding me treats and instead held her head. Tsuyu, oh. Wyan, yes. Now, can you keep rubbing my head? It's producing a nice calming feeling. They soon all went back to what they were originally doing as I enjoyed the treats and head rubs. Excuse me, my English. The clash just ended, and I was following Izuku with him holding my leash. But as we were walking to the door, I smelled several new scents, which immediately put me on edge. Izuku noticed my uneasy stance right away as he crouched down next to me. Izuku, Wyan, what's the matter? I gestured to the door as he stood back up in front of me just as Uraka opened it. The new scents turned out to be several students gathered outside our classroom still staring at us. Wyan, is this an attack do you wish for me to slaughter them, my king? He just tugged on my leash, which signaled me no. So I just remained hidden using my invisibility quirk. Ochako, what's going on? Tenyo, what business do you have with Class A? Minoru, we can't get out. I can easily carve a bloody path through them, but Izuku has already denied my request to kill. Minoru, what do you come here for anyway? The explosion human began to walk towards them, and hoping things turned bloody, I slowly crawled in front of Izuku. Katsuki, scouting out the enemy, small fry. We're the ones who made it out of the villain's attack. They probably want to check us out before the sports festival. These humans are both smart and idiotic. Smart, since they wish to scout the enemy. And idiot, and idiotic, since this is the way they decide to observe us. He then stopped in front of them, and they all got nervous with a hint of fear radiating off of them. Katsuki, there's no point in doing stuff like that. Out of my way, extras. Tenya, stop calling people extras just because you don't know them. He did the chopping motions at him, which I've come to learn wasn't him trying to attack. I came to see what the famous Class A was like, but you seem pretty arrogant. A human with purple hair and an expression that reminded me of Aizawa made his way forward. Are all the students in the heroic course like this? Seeing something like this makes me disillusionized. There are quite a few people who enrolled in the general studies or other courses because they can't make it. They didn't make it to the hero course. Did you know that? No, mainly because I don't think anyone cares. It just means that they weren't good enough to make it this high. Unlike my king, who is going to surpass everyone. The purple-haired human and explosion human had a little stare down before he continued. The school has left those of us a chance. Depending on the results of the sports festival, they'll consider our transfer into the hero course, and it seems they'll transfer people out. Well, you can't transfer a dead body, so none of you will make it in here. I will ensure it if you push me enough. I slowly began to walk towards the human while making sure my leash didn't give away my position, scouting out the enemy. I, at least, came to say that even if you're in the hero course, if you get too carried away, I'll sweep your feet out from under you. I came with a declaration of war. I stopped when he said war. This human wants to go to war with us? That makes me laugh. But I shall accept this declaration. So don't be surprised if your allies suddenly disappear. And remember, you wanted this. Izuku got slightly frightened, which made me growl slightly, making the humans look around confused. By the way, what's that savage animal you have as a class pet? My king was no longer frightened anymore. He was slightly angry by what he said. Izuku POV. Izuku, Wyan is not a savage creature or a class pet. He is my best friend. Ochako, yeah, he's really caring too. We all know what it did to the villains. We even saw it walk by with blood dripping from its claws. Izuku, he was protecting us. He held the villains off long enough for the other heroes to come get us. Even though he was outnumbered and hurt, he still fought for us. I could hear a faint purr, which went unheard by everyone else. Living with Wyan made me focus more on sounds, since his behavior is portrayed by the noises he makes. A purr means he's happy and feeling content. A hiss it acts as a warning for anyone he finds as a threat or if he's feeling agitated. He also uses it as a response. A growl means he's ready to protect and even kill for me. That means it's loyal to you. But what will it do when it stops listening to you when you say no? What will it do when it decides to kill and you can't stop it? It's a danger to everyone and will one day see you as just another thing to kill. His words shocked me. No one, not once has a Hawaiian ever tried to physically hurt me. In fact, he always makes sure to be gentle with me, even emotionally, since he always makes me feel better after I'm hurt or sad. Especially since I was a kid, he would always cuddle up to me in bed and give me snacks. And he still does this to this day. Izuku, hey YN? I could hear a light hiss followed by his voice in my head as everyone looked around at me confused. YN, yes, Izuku? Izuku, jump scare. Now everyone was looking at me weirdly as I could hear YN slightly purr. YN, as you command. The leash moved in my palm before it stopped, but no one seemed to notice the movement. I could see his invisibility deactivating, slowly revealing his feet and hands as he stood to his full height. What are you? YN POV. My invisibility form wore off as I jumped in front of them with bloodlust in my eyes and a malicious grin as I screamed in their faces. All of them jumped back, with some of them unconsciously activating their quirks. As for the purple-haired man, he fell on his back, crawling away from me. They all ran as I spat a small amount of acid in their direction. Fear, a great emotion to feel radiating off of your prey. I laughed as I walked back to Izuku with the bloodlust in my eyes gone and replaced by happiness as my grin turned into a small smile. Izuku smiled as well, rubbing my head as everyone recovered from the fear I induced into them. Izuku, good job, YN. But let's go home to prepare now. We walked out the door, stepping over the holes I made with my acid. But before we left, I turned back to the class and waved goodbye to Suyu, Ashido, and Uraka. They waved back with smiles on their faces as I wrapped my tail around Izuku and ran out the school to prepare for war. War has been declared, and I intend to attack first with a quick and powerful strike. 2 weeks is how long we have to prepare until we wage war, and the familiar feeling of going back to the battle fills me with excitement. But I think it's just waging war back home, back with my family, that I feel this way. For the first week, I helped Izuku train, whether it be helping during the training or caring for his tired body after. Such as now, me and Izuku were in his room with him on his bed laying on his stomach, shirtless. I was currently giving him a muscle massage while letting a bit of heat into my hands using one of my quirks. Ryan, are you comfortable, Izuku? Izuku, yeah, thanks for the massage. It's really helping me with my sore muscles. I lightly pressed down on his spine, causing a pop to resonate throughout his room, followed by a moan. He covered his mouth as I tilted my head on confusion on the sound, but continued giving him a massage. Izuku, okay, I'm gonna go shower now. Thanks again, Ryan. He got up and grabbed some of the clean clothes before heading towards the bathroom. Now is the perfect time to hunt and or search for those villains. Ryan, okay then. May I go outside for a while? He stopped and turned back to me with a thinking face on. Izuku, sure. Just come back before it gets too dark and don't attack anyone or anything. Please. I think the police are starting to get tired of responding to reports of a giant creature ripping apart a vending machine. That was only one time after it refused to give me anything after my offering of metal circles, and I was not going to be made a fool. I was not going to be made a fool. Izuku left as I got up and exited his room with removing my leash as I walked towards the entrance. A quick 30-minute search would be long enough to locate something that has something to do with the League of Villains. Not all of the Nomu's memories were helpful in locating their base. All I could see was a factory made of some sort and creatures stored within. I dropped my leash next to the door as I opened it, revealing a nice orange glow from the setting sun. I don't have a lot of time, so Let's get to searching. I ran out, closing the door behind me, making sure it was locked as to not let anyone in. I jumped from rooftop to rooftop, deeper into the city, searching for anything. Over the last week, I learned that Nomu's quirks increased my own natural strength, speed, and durability. Supposedly. Nomu was made to take on all my at 100% of his power, but I managed to kill him rather easily. Maybe it's because he wasn't meant to take on something like me. But either way, I can probably take on all might, even go beyond that. But that's for later. Right now, I need to focus. I landed on a tall building where I took time to sniff the air for the scent of either the mist man or the hands human. But I didn't recognize the scents or sights of the area I was in. I think this may be a bit different. I think this may be a different part of the city. How long was I traveling for? Before I could do anything, I smelt not one, but both of the mistman's and human hand scents. They were close, and I wasn't going to lose their trail now. I proceeded to run to the origin of their scents using rooftops and for quick traveling. This soon led me to what seemed like an abandoned bar. This is where their scents are, but why here? Whatever. It's not my place to ask. It's to do without question. I dropped down and began to walk towards the door to the building, preparing myself for combat with an entire base full of humans. As I was getting closer, I smelt someone behind me, but I kept walking. In a few seconds, I heard a grunt before I was grabbed and slammed to the side of the building. Give me all of your money and you'll live. I looked up to see a giant hand holding me in place against the wall as it connected to a human with a hood on his face. I just looked at him, confused on his appearance, and my lack of response seemed to anger the human. What are you, deaf? He squeezed me in the giant fist, making me growl at him due to my discomfort. I'm asking you one more time, and that's it. Give me all your money. I stabbed my tail into his giant hand, making him scream in pain and letting me go. He seemed to recover quickly as he somehow morphed his hand back to normal before claws appeared at the end of his fingers. You just had to fight back. He ran towards me with his clawed hand raised, intending to hit me with a powerful strike. I sidestepped his attack and tripped him with my tail before making him fall face first into a trash can. Wyatt, if you're going for an attack, don't make it so obvious. My voice made him look back at me, shocked, before it was replaced with anger. Shut it! He got up and turned his hand into a giant tentacle with barbs at the end, which he used to try and whip me. Even if he did hit me, I doubt it would penetrate my skin. As I was dodging, I noticed the sun was almost gone, and Izuku said to head home before it got too late. I needed to end this quickly, so I grabbed his arm with my left hand before using my right claw to slice it off. Ugh, you bastard! I dropped the severed squid arm that was squirming on the ground as I walked closer to the shape-shifting human. He still tried to fight me off turning his remaining arm to that of a tiger's. This time, I let him hit me, but when it made contact with his claws, it didn't even leave a scratch on my chitin. I grabbed him by his neck and lifted him off the ground as I stabbed my claws into his stomach. Wyan, you should know I would say sorry if I actually felt sorry, but I don't. He struggled to look up in time to see my mouth open and shoot my tongue into his brain, ending his life. I dropped the lifeless body before looking up at the sky, seeing that the sun has finally gone down. Damn it, I'm going to be late. I looked back at the building, slightly sad that I wasn't going to be able to kill them this day, but there's always later. So I began to run home using the scent I left behind traveling here. On the journey home, I got a massive headache, and I could feel my muscles cramping before it stopped. That's new. But hopefully it doesn't happen again. I don't even know what caused it. Thankfully, I was outside of Izuku's home, so I didn't have to travel anymore. As I entered, I made my way to Izuku's room with one last thought in my mind. I need to prepare myself for battle. It's been a few years since the last time I participated in any war. 2 weeks seemed to pass in a flash, and in that time we trained vigorously, even though I don't think it helped me. I was sitting next to Izuku as he tied his shoes. Inko, Izuku, be careful not to get hurt. You too, YN. I don't want to see either of you hurt. Izuku, okay. He finished tying his shoes and reattached my lace to my collar. Inko, I'll record it, okay? In high resolution. Izuku, okay. I handed Izuku his backpack as he got up. Inko, do your best, you two. I let out a light purr as she rubbed my head. Izuku, we're off. We were in the locker room with the rest of the class, all dressed in the same clothing, even me. I wasn't allowed to wear pants Inko made me, or the baggy sweater, which put me in a bad mood. Izuku, come on, Lion, it's only for today. How about I get you some of the food from the entrance when we're done? That made me happy as my tail wagged. Izuku, and remember, this isn't a real war, so please don't kill anyone, okay? I just nodded as Tenya bursted into the room, yelling, Tenya, everyone, are you ready? We will be entering soon. Izuku took a deep breath to calm his nerves as I gently rubbed his back to comfort him. Shoto, Midoriya. We both turned in the direction of the voice only to see the candy cane human approach. And even though he is our classmate, I don't trust him. Izuku, Todoroki, what is it? Everyone stopped speaking in favor of watching the interaction. Shoto, looking at things objectively, I think I'm stronger than you. Izuku, huh? I hissed and moved between him and my king. The candy cane human glanced at me before looking back at Izuku. Izuku, yeah? Shoto, but All Might has his eye on you, doesn't he? I'm not trying to pry about that, but I'm going to beat you. Izuku gasped, which caused me to get up and shove him away from my king with a little bit of force. But that force was enough to knock him off his feet. Everyone gasped as I growled at him. Izuku tugged on my leash, making me sit back down. But I still glared at the candy human, who recovered from the shove. He glared at me as well, making the tension in the room rise. Watch your tongue, Candy Cane. We wouldn't want you melting. Thank you. Oh, is the best in the class making a declaration of war? Katsuki, he'll lose immediately. If you want Izuku, you need to get through YN first. And if he can get toe-to-toe with all those villains, you won't have trouble killing him and us if you felt like it. Before things could escalate further, the red-haired human got in between us and held Candy Cane's shoulder. Ijiro, hey! Why are you picking a fight all of a sudden? Not now. We're about to start. He shrugged his hand off as he continued to stare at me. Shoto, we're not here to play at being friends. So, what does it matter? With one last glare, he began to walk away from my king before my king spoke. Izuku, Todoroki, I don't know what you're thinking when you say you'll beat me, but of course you're better than me. I think you're more than capable than most people. YN, don't say that, my king. You'll always be better than him in my eyes. I love us. Izuku, looking at it objectively. Ujiro, Midoriya, you probably shouldn't talk so negatively. Izuku, but everyone, the students from the other courses are aiming for the top with everything they've got. He stopped his hand movement, which made me look up at him. Izuku, I can't afford to fall behind. I hear you loud and clear, Izuku. I should kill the other students. Izuku, I'll be going for it with everything I have to. Never mind. Shoto, yeah. He really said, I got you. I'll just kill everyone else. Boom. My king, you're at the top. So simple. Just boom. That's our boom. That's how we do it. So simple. I love us. I walked out with everyone else, carrying Izuku on my back to comfort him since he was nervous about the audience. President Mick, the miraculous new stars who overcame enemy attacks with their hearts of steel. Hero Chorus, Class 1A, right? Izuku, there's so many people. YN, indeed. But don't let that mess with your head, my king. Izuku, right, I just have to calm down. But are you going to be alright? YN, what do you mean? I'll always place my feelings second to yours, and if you're happy, I'm happy. He gave me a smile before rubbing my hair, making me purr in bliss. President Mick, they haven't been getting as much airtime, but this class is also full of talent. Hero Chorus, Class 1B! I looked at the other humans only to see the same blonde human that called me and Arako weirdos. His mere appearance made me hiss and growl, wanting to tear him apart during battle. Izuku, calm down, Lion. We don't want a repeat of last week. I calmed down my breathing and continued to walk toward as the loud human continued to introduce the other classes. I tuned out the voices as I focused on the nice feeling of Izuku petting me. It wasn't until he stopped did I realize that we were in front of a adult female human who I recognized as Midnight from Izuku's notes. Midnight, representing the students is Katsuki Bakugo from Class 1A. He began to walk forward as everyone was shocked. Izuku, what? It's Katran? Hanta, that guy did finish first in the entrance exam. A sigh to our right caught our attention, which turned out to be from a female human in the other class, in the hero course. I hissed at her, which went unnoticed by everyone except Izuku. But before he could calm me down, she spoke again. Also, why are you on that thing's back? Are you too lazy to walk? Izuku moved to get off of me, but I wrapped my tail around him, holding him in place. But as I turned to the human, instead of a hiss, I growled and spit acid at her feet, which made her and the other humans back up. It produced a hissing sound as it melted through the ground. Speak again, and the next one won't miss. I turned back to the explosion human in time to see him walking by us and hearing everyone booing. I guess he said something they didn't like. Midnight. Now, let's get started right away. The first game is what you'd call a qualifier. Every year, many drink their tears here. My king might pass this one gratefully, if that's the case. So mean. Midnight. Now, here is the fateful first game. A screen then appeared above her, with an object spinning rapidly. Midnight. This year it's... The spinning object stopped on obstacle race. Midnight. This! Izuku, an obstacle course race. Midnight. All 11 classes will participate in this race. The course will be the other circumference of the stadium, about 4 kilometers. I can run around that entire thing about 5 times before anyone makes it to the finish line. Midnight. Our school's selling point is freedom. She then licked her lips, which made me feel slightly uncomfortable. Midnight. As long as you stay on the course, it doesn't matter what you do. So I can kill other contestants? Even though I didn't say that, Izuku still somehow knew I thought about it, which made him tug on my leash. Midnight. Now, take your places, everyone. We were lined up in the front of a gateway with 3 green lights above it. Izuku took off my collar and leash, afraid someone might grab it, or it might get caught on something. He had a face of pure determination, which filled me with eagerness to help him. The lights began to turn off one by one as I noticed something about the entrance. It's narrow, and the only way to go through it with hundreds of other humans pushing to be first. Somebody is going to be trampled when this starts. Midnight, start! I grabbed Izuku with my tail before immediately jumping ahead of everyone else. And like I predicted, they immediately began to squish each other trying to get past. In a few seconds, we were on the other side just in time to see an explosion of ice engulfing the entrance. Izuku. Wow, thanks, YN. Before I could thank him for his praise, ice trapped my feet, causing me to stumble and slide. The candy cane human passed us, and I wasn't going to be the cause of Izuku being last. So I placed Izuku on my back before getting down on all fours and running across the ice quickly. My claws helped dig my hands and feet into the ground before pushing off with enough streak to propel us forward with each stride. Katsuki, you're not getting away from me, you overgrown lizard! I could hear the explosion human coming towards us. But it didn't matter since I quickly passed the candy cane human, regaining our lead. I can't lose my focus and may end up causing my king to fail. I soon skidded to a stop after seeing several huge robots in front of us, one of which knocked Minato away. Robot, target found. YN, your orders, my king? Izuku, YN, I know we only practiced this once, but I guess now is a good time as any. Do you think you can fully transform now? YN, if it is your command, then it shall be done. Izuku. Then YN, start hunting. He quickly backed away from me and the robots as the other humans arrived and watched as I transformed into my Ravager form. That looks badass. The difference now being the crest on my chest was as the spikes on my back were all sorts of different colors ranging from fiery red to a golden yellow, but the majority of them were still their original black color. I roared loudly, causing fear to strike in every human's heart except Izuku, who looked at me in awe. I stood over 6 meters tall with my hands turned into large blades and my tail stretching far. It feels great to be back in my Ravager form again. All of the robots turned their attention to me as I raised my blade hands and tail, ready for my first battle as a Ravager. Let's see if I still have all of my skills, shall we? Woo, that looks badass! Oh my gosh, that looks amazing! So guys, I decided to finish this video with this last chapter because so to get this one out of the way, because it does not include with the actual current thing that we are in right now. This is just a side story. This is a side story, so this does not mix in with the others. So this is side story chapter 1, Wyan's first Christmas, and then this is from the author. This is a chapter about the adventures Izuku and Wyan had growing up together. This one is about Wyan's first Christmas with Izuku. Since this takes place in the past, Izuku is a child and Wyan is tiny again. Enjoy. Excuse me, ow. Wyan POV. I was sitting on my king's bed, watching as he frantically ran around his room, changing into different clothes. He seemed very full of energy, more today than usual. Izuku, guess what today is, Wyan? He tossed his shirt off, making it fly in the air before landing on me, and since it was bigger than me, I was completely covered. What is this? I can't get out of this prison. Wyan. I was struggling to get his shirt off of me, and I guess he found it amusing since he giggled before freeing me from the shirt's hold. He then picked me up and proceeded to jump up and down with a huge smile on his face. Well, Izuku, that's right, it's Christmas! I just tilted my head to the side, confused about why he's excited over one word. My confusion seemed to be noticed by him as he stopped jumping to look at me. Izuku, oh, I guess you wouldn't know what Christmas is. My king then held me in one arm, using his other to strike a heroic pose. The fire of determination burning bright in his big eyes as a big smile formed on his face. Izuku, but don't worry, I'll teach you about this great holiday. He wrapped his arms around me before running out of the room, all the while I dangled in Izuku's arms. As I was running, I noticed a tree in the living room with boxes beneath it. How did the tree grow in here, and why are there boxes beneath it? Are they offerings to the tree? Before I could question the appearance of the tree further, we made it to the kitchen. Inko, Merry Christmas, you two. Izuku, Merry Christmas, Mom. YN. Izuku placed me on the table before running out of the kitchen. I was going to follow him, but he yelled for me to stay where I was and that he'll be back. I just sat on the table, anxiously waiting for his return. While I was busy waiting, I didn't notice Inko placing a plate of cookies in front of me with a bowl of milk. I looked up at her, allowing me to see a gentle smile that reminded me of my own mother. Inko, they're fresh from the oven. Enjoy, but save some for Izuku as well. She rubbed my head before leaving the kitchen. I nibbled on one of the warm cookies, tasting the amazing flavor contained within. I quickly finished off the cookie before drinking a bit of the milk. The silence has given me a moment alone with my thoughts. Inko and Izuku are the last remaining things in my life, and I fully intend to protect them. My siblings were slaughtered, and I don't even know if my mother is still alive. It's possible at least one of my siblings managed to escape the Yautja attack like me, but the chances of finding them are slim to none. My life is a complete mess, and if my mother calls me to return, then I'll... Izuku, when? I'm back with everything I need to teach you about Christmas. My train of thought was cut off by Izuku returning to the kitchen with a box in his arms. He placed the box on the table before climbing into the seat next to me. Izuku, now on Christmas, a man called Santa will deliver presents to every kid in the world in one night. If you behave nicely, you'll get a present. But if you've been bad, you'll get coal instead. A human delivers presents to every child on Earth in one night and somehow knows if they're well behaved? That human sounds dangerous. I should remain vigilant. Izuku, you can also get other people gifts if you want to. We also decorated a tree with different things. I even brought the box of ornaments over to show you. As the beginner rummaged through the box, I picked up one of the cookies with my tongue and offered it to him. Izuku, did Mom make cookies? My king took the cookie from my tongue, taking a bite as a look of bliss appeared on his face from the taste of the snack. Once he finished the cookie, he reached into the box and took out a small green glass ball. Izuku, this is an ornament you put on a tree that's in the living room. They can also come in different colors, shapes, and designs. So these are offerings to the magical tree. He placed it in front of me, allowing me to inspect the glass ball. I rolled it from side to side, using my blade hands before I looked back up at him, waiting for the next lesson. He reached into the box once more and pulled out a star. Izuku, this is a star. You place it on the very top of the tree. How did the star get here? I always try to grab one back home, but they were too far away. My king placed the star next to me before searching through the box for something. He eventually pulled out a small plant that had a small red objects connected to it. Izuku, and finally, this is a mistletoe. Mom said that when two people are under it, they have to kiss. Excuse me. He placed it in front of me before taking another cookie. Does this plant have powers to make the two people kiss? I picked it up with my tail, holding it above my head, but I didn't feel anything. No mind control, and I'm not feeling anything wrong, so this plant doesn't have any power. I placed the plant back onto the table before moving to look into the box, but I unfortunately fell into the box, getting covered in ornaments in the process. Izuku, YN, where'd you go? YN. He reached into the box and pulled me out, revealing me covered in ornaments. Izuku let out a small giggle before removing the various decorations that covered my body. Izuku, instead of decorating yourself, do you want to go decorate the tree? I gave him a nod, which made him smile before placing me down and picking up the box just as Inko returned. Inko, there's the box of ornaments. I was looking all over for it. What were you two doing with it? Izuku, I was using them to teach YN about Christmas. She walked up to us, patting Izuku's head before picking me up. Inko, that's sweet. But do you two want to help me decorate the tree? Izuku, yeah. YN. We then made our way to the living room with Inko carrying me while Izuku carried the box of ornaments. I was sitting on the floor next to the box of ornaments watching Inko and Izuku decorate the tree. I couldn't really help since I didn't have hands, so I used my tail to hand them ornaments. Inko, almost done. Just a few more and then I need to go get a chair to put the star on. Izuku said that the star is supposed to go at the very top of the tree, and seeing the height of the tree compared to Inko's, she won't be able to reach it without having some assistance. But luckily for them, I am fully capable of assisting in this problem. I grabbed the star with my tail before moving to climb up the wall to reach the top of the tree. My blades and feet helped me climb up the wall and cling to the roof. Inko, hey sweetie, where's YN? Izuku, isn't he next to the box? They looked around. I was finally above the tree, using my tail to carefully place the star on the very top of the tree. They both looked at the tree, hearing it rustling, only to see me attempting to place the star on top. Inko / Izuku, YN! I could sense fear radiating off both of them, but I continued to try to place the star on top of the tree. Izuku, YN, get down from there, you could hurt yourself! I survived the entry of Earth's atmosphere at high speed after being hit by missiles from a Yautja ship, so I doubt I'll be injured if I fall from this height, but I appreciate your concern for my well-being nonetheless. After a few more seconds, I managed to place the star on top of the tree, filling me with pride accomplishing this task. I was so happy that I did a small dance, forgetting that I was on the ceiling. Izuku YN! He quickly ran forward and caught my small body before cradling me in his chest with his arms wrapped tightly around me. Inko was soon by his side as well, looking down at me with concern. Inko, are you okay? Do I need to take you to the hospital? I shook my head no, before I was brought into a tight hug from Izuku. His dull eyes held small tears threatening to spill, yet he remained strong. Izuku, I'm glad you're okay. I don't ever want to see you hurt or worse. If this is your reaction to me almost hurt, I can't imagine how you'll feel if I perish in battle. If I could give my life to save yours, I'd do it. Kill, fight, die. That's what a good soldier does, and I'm your loyal soldier. I wrapped my tail around his hand and returned the embrace, making sure my blade hands didn't hurt him. In an attempt to lift the mood, Inko held out my king's all-might coat to him. Inko, why don't you and Lion go play outside in the snow? When you come back, and I'll have a few treats ready. His happiness quickly returned as the joy made a smile appear on Inko's face. Izuku, thanks, Mom. Come on, Ryan. He hugged his mother before grabbing the coat and running back to his room with me once again dangling in his arms. The snow wasn't too deep. It went up to Izuku's ankles, but it covered the lower half of my body. That's why I'm sitting in the hood of Izuku's coat with a green scarf covering my collar. We would have left sooner, but Izuku attempted to wrap my body in a constricting dog coat. Flashback. I was backed into a corner, hissing at the item in Izuku's hands. He slowly advanced towards me before lunging with the coat, but I swiftly dodged and ran to the other side of the room. He quickly got up and ran towards me once more for me to dodge between his legs. Izuku, YN, stay still! YN. I tried to go under his bed, but Izuku moved quickly and got in front of me, making me crash into his legs, dazed. Izuku, I got you now! Before the coat could touch me, I quickly cut it to shreds with my claws. Izuku looked at the remains of the coat as the pieces of it snowed down on us. He looked at me with an annoyed expression as I sat there innocently swinging my tail side to side. He sighed before removing his green scarf. Izuku, at least wear this. Flashback end. Izuku, let's go see Kachan, YN. YN. I don't know why you still consider that human your friend, Izuku. After the way he's treated you, I wouldn't blame you if you decided to let me kill him. Izuku, cheer up, YN. I'm sure he's in a great mood because it's Christmas. Maybe this will lift your spirits? He took one of the cookies Inko made and held it behind his head for me to eat. As I ate the treat, I reluctantly let it cheer me up as we continued our walk throughout the neighborhood looking for the explosive blonde. After a few minutes of searching, we arrived at the park. It was covered in so much snow that if I walked in it, my entire body will be covered, leaving only my head visible. Izuku, wow, there's so much snow. While my king was busy admiring the scenery, I noticed something small and white rapidly approaching, aimed at Izuku. Incoming! I spit acid at the projectile, melting it instantly before it could hit Izuku, who turned in the direction where it came from. It came from several kids who were behind a snow wall with matching coats. What was that? Did he use his quirk? Focus fire on that kid. They soon unleashed a barrage of projectiles at my king, which I swiftly shot more acid at. But more quickly followed, making Izuku run around looking for cover. He then stopped, however, when a familiar voice yelled out to him. Katsuki, Deku, get over here and make yourself useful. His head was the only thing visible before he ducked as some projectiles were shot at him. Their change of targets bought us some time to run towards Katsuki. As we got close, it turned out he made a foxhole with enough space for multiple humans, but he was the only one in it. When we were in the foxhole, he glared at both of us before crouching down. Izuku, Kachan, what is going on? Why are they... Katsuki, shut up! Shut it and let me explain. Those bastards are from a private school a town or two away. They finally decided to bite after I challenged one of them into a snowball fight. I just didn't expect the coward to get his friends. Izuku, what do we do? We're pinned down. Katsuki, shut up and throw some back. He threw some snowballs before getting behind cover as enemy projectiles flew past his head. Izuku tried as well, but a snowball would have hit him if I had melted it. This plan wasn't working as my king's projector, it was, excuse me, this plan wasn't working, and as my king's protector, it was my duty to come up with a battle strategy. Normally, my plans would involve rushing the enemy, but due to my small form and deepness of the snow, I won't be able to do that. For once in my life, I must use my brain. Izuku tried to occasionally return fire, but the projectiles kept flying overhead, making him return behind to cover quickly. After a few seconds, my brain somehow came up with a plan so stupid it just might work. To convey my genius strategy to Izuku and Katsuki, I drew pictures in the snow using my tail. Katsuki, what the hell is that? Izuku, what are you drawing, YN? By the time they noticed me drawing, the plan was complete. It showed two stick figures with spiky hair carrying me, while one of them, wearing a crown, placed snowballs on my tail. Then it showed them being fired over the wall and into the enemy's heads. The image was crudely made, but my king seemed to be able to understand it clearly. Katsuki, on the other hand, squinted his eyes as he stared at my plan. Izuku, so, Kachan carries you while I place snowballs on your tail where you proceed to launch them? I enthusiastically nodded, excited to rain death from above our enemies with my king. A snowball landed behind us, making Izuku jump in fright. Katsuki, you got all that from a bunch of squiggly lines? Izuku, Kachan, we need your help if we want to win this fight. We really don't need this. We really don't. This is a two-person operation. I only included the explosive blonde because I wanted to step on him. Katsuki, fine. But make sure those snowballs are well made. Pack some rocks in them to make it really hurt. So it began our counterattack. As Izuku was making snowballs, I got in the blonde human's back, trying to find a nice position. Katsuki, watch where your claws are, you little bastard. You better not rip my coat or I'll kill you. I hissed in his face before finding a nice position to set up. Using my blades, I hooked them under his arms while my feet grabbed his coat to hold me in place. I looked like a backpack that could launch projectiles. By this point, my king finished making a hefty sums of snowballs and approached us with a handful. Izuku, okay, ready. Katsuki, well, hurry up and load some snowballs. He nodded before placing one on my tail. Izuku, you're set, fire. Directing power to my tail, I launched the snowball high in the air as Izuku peeked out the foxhole to see where it landed. Katsuki, well, did we hit anything? Izuku, we hit a squirrel that was in the tree to the right. It better have been the one that foolishly attacked me. Izuku, move a little bit to the left, Kachan. He moved as Izuku ran up and reloaded me before moving back to peek over the foxhole. Izuku, fire! Like before, I put power to my tail, making the snowball soar through the air towards the enemy. They soon returned fire, making Izuku drop to avoid being hit. Katsuki, well, overshoot. Move back 2 feet. Katsuki, this better be right this time, Deku. He angrily moved back as Izuku placed 3 snowballs on my tail this time. Once he was peeking over the foxhole, he gave me a thumbs up, signaling me to rain death from above. The snowballs kept soaring over us until a few voices yelled, ow, as the barrage lessened, showing me hit some of them. Izuku, direct hit. Katsuki, finally. Put more on his tail so we can finish them off. My king then began to place 3 snowballs at a time as I launched with more and more power, bombarding the enemy force. After 30 seconds, we successfully launched all the snowballs before waiting for retaliation, but it never came. We cautiously peeked over to see the enemy running away, with some of them being carried, having been injured from the bombardment. Katsuki, yes! I guess you two are useful for something. Even though it was clearly an insult, it was a compliment, coming from this human. Izuku smiled and took me off of his back before placing me in his hood. Izuku, do you want to hang out with me and YN back at our house? He looked like he was about to refuse, but stopped when he saw me brandishing my blades at him before showing my tongue. I was behind Izuku, so he couldn't see me threaten Katsuki. accept or be my next prey. Izuku, my mom is making snacks. Katsuki, fine, but only because it's free snacks. Wise choice. We finally made it home with the explosive human begrudgingly following us. Once Izuku opened the door, he announced our safe return along with the arrival of Katsuki. Izuku, Mom, we're home and I brought Kachan. Izuku, we're in the kitchen, boys. We. Izuku closed the door behind us, removing his coat and boots as Katsuki did the same. He placed me on the ground, removing the green scarf and putting it next to his coat. The three of us made our way to the kitchen, being greeted by Inko, who was finishing pouring liquids in 2 cups in a bowl. Inko, hello, Katsuki. Merry Christmas. Katsuki, Merry Christmas. Inko, I made some hot chocolate for you boys. She handed over 2 cups and placed a bowl of hot chocolate on the floor for me. When my king and the explosive human drank the liquid, happiness began radiating off of them. Katsuki even had a small smile as he looked up at the cup. Inko, guess what you and YN are standing beneath, Katsuki? Katsuki, YN. We all looked up and saw that small plant Izuku called a mistletoe. The explosion human immediately yelled in protest as I hissed before continuing to drink my hot chocolate. Katsuki, no! Inko, if you do it, I'll give you more hot chocolate. He immediately stopped protesting and looked deep in thought, seriously weighing in the pros and cons of this deal. In the end, he decided he's willing to give up some of his pride for more of Inko's delicious hot chocolate. Katsuki, come here, you bastard. I'm getting more of that hot chocolate no matter what. Since I was drinking from my bowl, I was taken aback from surprise when he picked me up and kissed my head. A few clicking sounds followed by Inko giggling, making him drop me. He began to furiously wipe his mouth while I furiously wiped my head. Inko, okay, here you go. She poured more hot chocolate into his cup while I continued to wipe my head. A few seconds later, Izuku picked me up, confusing me before he gave me a kiss on the forehead. But unlike with Katsuki, I returned the gesture, using my head to rub against his. He gave me a cheerful smile while hugging me. Izuku, Merry Christmas, YN. I cuddled deeper into his arms with my head buried in his neck as Inko took a picture of us. Merry Christmas, my king. Inko, okay, I need to send these to Mitsuki. Bonus scene. I was watching over Izuku as he slept with an unfamiliar scent, when an unfamiliar scent made me rise on full alert. Izuku and Inko are both sleeping, which is a human's most vulnerable state to be in, so I was on edge. I got out of Izuku's bed, making sure to not wake him up as I exited the room. I made my way to the origin of the noise, which was the living room. But I stopped my tracks when I saw what I saw when I entered. A human with a giant bag was there eating our cookies. Intruder! And he's eating my cookies! I wasted no time in charging at the mysterious intruder with full intent to slaughter him. And this time, no one was here to stop me. Third POV. The mysterious man turned around at the sound of rapid footsteps, only to be met with Wine's sharp blades. All the while, Izuku remained asleep, unaware of his best friend attacking a man dressed in red. That is so unbelievably, undeniably, crystallically, so freaking adorable. So, first of my questions is, do you guys think we succeeded in attacking the man dressed in red? Let me know in the comments down below. And then for my second question is, do you think it's about to be crazy up in the whatchamacallit? The sports festival, guys? I think it's about to be crazy up in there. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, if it's gonna go crazy or not, or your theories of what may or may not happen. Remember, things go a little differently since there is a literal xenomorph in it. So remember, this story has only like 4 chapters left, and it is sadly discontinued. I am pretty sad about it. It used to say something about discontinued, but as you can see, the last update is like a couple damn near years ago. So I don't think it's going to get updated, but if it magically does, I've been praying for this story to get updated since the very beginning, even before I read this to you guys. So I'm praying to the fanfic gods that they magically update the story. I will be so happy. We'll just have to see. Anyways, sadly for me to cut this short. I'm sorry, guys, but your girl's gotta go. I hope you guys did enjoy. Like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more amazing videos, guys. I will start reading the votes soon. I will make them official by tomorrow or soon, I believe, because this video is quite long and it'll probably already be official on the community. So just look into the communities when everything's, to make sure everything's official. I just can't wait to read more stories to you guys. I'm super excited. So yeah, guys, hope you guys have an amazing day. Got any suggestions for me or anything? Let me know in the comments down below. Love you guys, appreciate you guys, and I shall see you on the next futuristic video. Bye and peace, y'all.